Hi, this is Grant Earth with Grant's Rock Warehouse, and welcome to the second in the series of April wine discussions. Tonight we're going to discuss First Glance from 1978 and Power Play from there. There you go, 1982. My panel tonight, right now we've got Tim Gerling from Tim's Vinyl Confessions. We've got John Clauser from
Yep.
My Music Corner. We've got Ryan Gavalier from Ryan's Vinyl Destination. And like I said, we're going to discuss some April wine. So let's go ahead and take a look at April wine's First Glance. This was released in March 1978. It was recorded at Studio Tempo and Le Studio up in Canada. In the United States, the album came out on Capitol EMI, and in Canada on Aquarius. Producer on this one was Miles Goodwin, and not only was Miles producing, but he did the lead and background vocals, guitar, and keyboards. We've got Steve Lang on bass, background vocals. Brian Greenway, this is the first record Brian's appeared on, and he's lead and background vocals, guitar, slide guitar, and harmonica. And also we've got Jerry Mercer on drums and Gary Moffat on guitar and slide guitar. First Glance became April Wine's first gold record outside of Canada. The album spawned the hit Roller and was a hit in Flint, Michigan. And radio listeners there made Roller a top requested song. Everything started out, once Roller hit, that just set them off here in the States. As you can tell, all the tracks are written by Miles Goodwin except where noted. So we do have some great tracks on here. Get Ready for Love, Hot on the Wheels of Love, Rock and Roll is a Vicious Game. Right down on it is Brian Greenway. This is his first song that he has submitted for the band. You've got Roller on here. You've got a great lineup. All Music Guide gave this record a 3.5-star review, which I think's fair. But as we look at this, we will make our own decisions. So let's take a look at Power Play. Power Play came out in 1982, and as everyone knows, there were two albums prior to this. So you've got First Glance, Harder, Faster, and The Nature of the Beast, and then 1982's Power Play. This was actually released in July of 82, recorded at Le Studio. This was released on Capitol in the States, and it came out on Aquarius in Canada. Producer on this one's just like The Nature of the Beast, Mike Stone and Miles Goodwin. In fact, we had the same lineup as before: Miles, Gary Moffat, Steve Lang, Brian Greenway, and Jerry Mercer. The single Enough is Enough managed to reach number 50 on the Billboard Hot 100, spending 8 weeks on the chart. The album itself peaked at number 37 on the Billboard 200 chart, remaining there for 20 weeks. It didn't perform quite as well as The Nature of the Beast, but it did okay. I remember when Enough is Enough came out, I bought that 45 when I was in high school. It's good times, but I love this record. I'll just go ahead and say that now. All Music Guide, though, however, gave this record 2 stars. Now, do I think that's a bit low? I think that's a bit low for this record. But let's get to the panel and let's see what they have to say about it. So what we're going to do, we'll just go around. Everybody will review both records, give it a rating from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. Pick out some tracks that you like on them. You could bring out some tracks that you don't like on them. And we'll just have a general discussion about it. And I think what I'm going to go is go with Tim Derling. And Tim, we're just going to go clockwise. So we'll go Tim, John, and then Ryan. So, Tim, take it away.
So, thanks, Grant. So we're
You're
talking about
welcome.
First Glance, or are we going to talk about both of them?
We're going to do both. So I would start with First Glance and then
Okay.
talk about Power Play.
Okay. Okay, first glance, I'm going to hold up the more commonly known version around the world. Um, this is an original U.S. Capitol Records CD. It's the first time that the classic April Wine logo appeared.
Yeah.
So version of it, there you go, in the bottom corner, bigger version of it here. Um, in Canada, the album originally came out on, well, all of their albums from 1971 through 85 were on Aquarius Records, which was distributed by Capitol up here. Actually, initially it was distributed by London, but it had a much different album cover, and it looked like this. Not a great album cover. Doesn't even have the logo on it. So pretty forgettable in the record rack. So I think that the U.S. label did a great, you know, smart thing by changing the cover. But it's funny because April Wine had already, to a lot of people, I think this was the first April Wine album a lot of folks in the U.S. had heard of. It was their first one on Capitol Records. They'd had about, I think they had about 3 albums before that were released in the States, but they were on smaller labels like Big Tree and London Records. So this was really sort of their coming out party as a major rock band. Canada, they'd been around enough and they'd charted enough so that the very next thing to come out in Canada before Harder Faster in 1979 was this Greatest Hits album, which, as you'll see, has the exact same band photo on it. Then in 1987, Aquarius once again puts out another compilation called Over with the with the same band shot on the cover. So anyway, First Glance was the first album that featured the classic 5-piece lineup of Miles Goodwin, the lead singer, main songwriter, guitarist, keyboard player, Voltaire. Um, Brian Greenway was on, or the occasional vocal. No, sorry, it was the first album Brian was on.
Right.
Gary Moffat's still there on guitar, Steve Lang on bass, and Jerry Mercer on drums. So with this album, it's the first one that gave them that classic 3 guitar attack. All of them played lead, and they used that to great effect. This album gave them not their first U.S. hit, because they scored a minor hit in 1972 with their cover of the Hot Chocolate song "You Could Have Been a Lady." But their first really well-known rock hit, a song that still gets lots of classic rock airplay to this day, is the song "Roller." That hit number 34. As a matter of fact, that we can credit DJ Flint, Michigan, for saving April Wine's career, because the album had been out for a few months and it wasn't selling very well in the States. It's always been kind of tough for Canadian bands to break through in the States and stay big. It's always been a struggle. A very few have achieved it. But the DJ in Flint, Michigan started playing Roller. He was starting to get phones were lighting up. And the next thing you know, April Wine are on tour. I know they supported Rush at one point. And of course, as Grant's told us, they ended up playing some pretty big bills. And what fans were seeing was what they perceived to be a brand new band, but they'd seen a band that was well seasoned, well road tested, very, very professional. And to seeing them pulling off, a good example in Roll is the triple guitar solo where they all take, I don't know, thirds, and then they play in harmony. And I'm never get tired of hearing it. It's just a cool, heavy shuffle. And also with this album, this is the first one that isn't quite as eclectic as the previous albums. Like some of the earlier April Wine albums, it's like they can't figure out if they want to be a folk rock band or a ballad, just a ballad band, like, kind of sappy piano ballads, pop oriented, or if they want to do heavy rock. This one, they kind of said, we're going to, kind of put the pedal down and we're just going to make this a straight ahead rock album, pretty much. Um, Roller was really the only hit they had in the studio. I understand that the opening track, Get Ready for Love, used to get some FM airplay. A
Yeah.
big hit up here in Canada was, I guess, the closest thing to a ballad on here is "Rock and Roll is a Vicious Game," which features some cool in it. That was a pretty big single up here, but it's got Brian Greenway's first lead vocal song called "Right Down to It," and it's pretty good. I think this album is still a little bit tied to their earlier album. The songs like "Let Yourself Go" and "I'm Alive." Those sound like they could have come off like "The Whole World's Going Crazy" or maybe "Stand Back." Kind of a. I've always really liked the closing track, "Silver Dollar." It's kind of moody, not heavy, but it is kind of a doomy sounding song. It's an interesting way to close off the album. I love the song "Coming Right Down on Top of Me." It's kind of a piano ballad, but it is a dark one. I think side one kind of overshadows side two, my opinion. Second track on here is a fun little rock song called "Hot on the Wheels of Love." Kind of corny, but there's some really cool slide guitar in it. You know, it might put you in mind of Foghat, but a good. They're in some ways it was their breakthrough. I've read it's but it's RI think so. That tells me close. I know it had "Roller" on it, which was a top 40 single, and that set the stage for the albums we talked about last time, "Harder, Faster," and "Nature of the Beast." So a good solid album. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. That's my rating for first glance.
It's pretty good.
So we want to go right ahead to Power.
Yeah, go ahead. Just might as well.
O- Okay, so Power Play has been described as a good album that had the misfortune of following a great one, because "Nature of the Beast" was April Wine's most successful album. It's their only platinum album in the States. It gave them their highest charting single with "Just Between You and Me." And actually, Wine were the first band to get played on MTV. I think that's a pretty cool little stat. And they were also the first band to be played twice. Because if you know anything about the history of MTV, they didn't have a lot of videos. Now, 4 videos for Power Play, all of which are really, really bad. I would recommend checking out the videos for "Enough is Enough," the humorously titled "If You See K," "Doing It Right," and "Tell Me Why." So this is Power Play. I just have a Canadian Aquarius CD, which is kind of crappy looking. It doesn't have the proper back cover graphics on it. I'd like to find a US Capitol version. There you go. Um, Kind of, it's very much 82, right? Because they're, inside of an arcade game. It doesn't, it's a little bit like, same year, it's a little bit like "It's Hard" by The Who. But yeah,
Oh
again,
yeah,
I've
very
always really
similar.
loved the logo. Yeah. So this album, again, it was platinum in Canada. It didn't certify in the States. It hit number 30 Billboard, and I think they still did fairly well on the road, because I know for a fact you can find a concert that was filmed from. Now I can't think of where it was filmed. I think Grand Rapids. I think you can find a full length concert from the Power Play tour, and it looks like a fairly big place that they were still playing. I think that would have been it though, for them being doing really well in the States as a touring act. And we talked about that last time, how it's a shame that they don't get down there to remind people how good they are. The biggest hit single on this album is the second "Enough is Enough." Hit number 11 in Canada and peaked at number 50 in the States. And the video has all 5 of the band members crowded into the cab of a truck, and Miles is singing into the CB. So I love watching early videos. Directors, musicians, they just did not know what to do, especially when you were dealing with, bands been around at a time it didn't matter what you looked like. And all of a sudden now you got to play for the camera. You just tell that some of them just they had no clue how to conduct themselves. There are quite a few covers on here. Well, there's actually 3 covers on here. The rest of the songs are all written by Miles Goodwin. Um, the only other song that got much airplay at all off of this album is their cover of the Beatles' "Tell Me Why," which is really, really different than the original Beatles version. It's more Z and more of a ballad on here, and I listened to the Beatles version, which is way different. Like it's more of an up tempo. I think it's a fairly early song for the Beatles, and I like the interpretation of it here. Like I said, there's that song "If You See K," which is kind of silly, ha ha, right? The worked when the radio station I worked for was AM. I remember we had a bunch of old singles that we didn't play anymore, and one of them was the single for "Tell Me Why," and "If You See K" was the B side, and someone at the station had taken a knife or a pen or something and scraped the entire side of that record, flipped it over, and try to play that song even though they don't actually curse in it. It's kind of amusing. Um, the other cover on here is the song "Doing It Right," which was written by a guy named Tony Lavin. He was an original member of the band Prism, which some of you may have heard of, but that song actually was a bigger hit here when it was recorded by a blues band. That's the version I remember on the video. I didn't even record that one gets talked about. Once You Got It is the opening track, perfect for opening a concert, and I think it did open many a concert. Blood Money's a
Hmm.
fairly heavy one on here, but overall, this album isn't as, like I said, pedal to the metal as the previous two. Not that Harder, Faster, Nature of the Beast were all out metal by any stretch, but they were fairly hard rocking albums. This one just takes the foot off the accelerator a little bit. I do think there are some great ballads on here, like "What If We Fall in Love." Um, yeah, "Runners in the Night's" a cool closer. I have a real soft spot for "Enough Is Enough." It's kind of a poppy rock song. I love about it. It's the only song I could kind of play the entire guitar solo to, and that isn't just. It's certainly not a very complicated solo, but it's a lot of fun to play. And of the two, I gave First Glance an 8. I'm going to give Power Play an 8.5. I think I like this one just a little better, but they're both really good.
That's excellent. That's higher than I thought you would probably rate it, but it's a great record. I do remember getting "Enough Is Enough" as a 45 back when it came out, and I always thought that was a great single. But I'm interested to know what John Clauser has to say because I don't think John has really heard these records until he just picked this up.
Yeah,
Now
I'm still pretty new to these albums. So
I do have a question to ask you. What version is that? The BGO version of that? What
this
is
one,
that? Yeah.
this this is a it's got Aquarius on it. I don't
Oh,
know. You can see at the very bottom there's like another little logo on there. I don't know what that bottom thing
I mean
is.
that's like
Okay,
a
I know
British import, isn't it?
I know exactly what that is. That's
Okay.
a Canadian reissue. It's Aquarius, but it's reissued. That says Unidisc,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
they reissued the April Wine albums in the late 2000s, and they did a pretty deep job with this time, other than the fact that they're digipacks. But it was the first time that their three live albums made it to CD. So those are the ones I have in that series. So that's really cool. There's more in that than there is in this old Aquarius CD. Like I said, this is the cover, and there's just nothing on it. It's
Hmm.
really, so yeah,
Yeah,
that for sure.
I had just gotten this off Amazon, so like just a
Yeah,
couple of weeks ago or so.
the packaging looks great.
Yeah, I thought it really looked like I said, the back. I
Yeah,
think
it actually
really looks.
uses the in the record.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
Yeah,
really looks nice. And like I said, I do like this
if you look
inside.
if you look at the pickups of a guitar,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
yeah, they did a nice job on that.
yeah,
Finally,
they did a really
a
super job
decent
with those.
release.
But the first one I'm going to talk about here is I got one of these 2-in-1s, so that's how I got my copy of First Glance. This was put out by BGO Records. So to me, this whole stretch of 4 albums, from First Glance to Power Player. I mean, what a great, solid lineup of albums here. Um, Nothing really deviates, so they're all pretty much kind of all in the same line, but they're all really really good albums. Uh, I think if I'm just gonna go do my rankings now, I would say First Glance would be about a 7.5, and I think I'm like Tim. I like Power Play just a little bit more, so I probably would give it about 8.5. Um, for me, I think I liked the boogie of Hot on the Wheels of Love. For I thought Get Ready for Love was also a good kind of like that. I thought that
Yeah.
was a neat, good intro there. Roller, great song. Just love. I love the guitar work in that. Um, Coming right. I have to admit, I thought Roller. There was like a little. I felt like there was like a tad of a nod to Led Zeppelin at the end, with a little bit of like the da 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 da, a little bit of How Many More Times at the end of that. I maybe that was just me.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay. Coming. I thought the beginning of Coming Right Down on Top of Me. I thought, where have I heard this a little bit? I thought, oh yeah, this sounds a little. I think Motley Crue stole this from for Home Sweet Home. But anyway, that was just my weird ears hearing that. But um, I thought
Yeah.
this was a strong album.
Never
I
thought of
really
that before, but yeah.
I don't know, it's just that little bit. I mean, it doesn't do the whole thing of Home Sweet Home, but it has that little bit of just that that little lifting. But it's good. It's good. Um, but to me, Power Play, yeah. When you guys said enough is enough, and I had never, and I was like, I'd never heard the song before. I watched the video and I'm like, oh boy,
Yeah, it's bad.
ooh, yeah. But it was a good song though. I did really like the song though. I did like that. Um, of course, if you CK, I mean that's just, but the vocal melodies in that thing are just really just amplify that song even better. I just really liked how they did that. Um, for me, the songs that really get me, I love Doing It Right. I think that's a great rocker.
Mhm.
Um, I love the grooves and the riffs of Ain't Got Your Love. I that there's just that I love that down down now now I don't know. I think that's just it just slays me whenever I was listening to that. Blood Money thought was really good. Runners in an I again I thought this was a again in this pocket of 4 albums, it was it was just a great succession of all 4. So there's really nothing that deviated, but it was just to me they're all strong albums, and I definitely want to explore more of the catalog. So yeah, you guys are making me a fan of this band. So
Cool.
that's where I'm going. And Tim, by the way, great analysis on the albums and all the stuff that you've done on these things.
Yeah.
I have to
Thanks.
commend you. That's great. It's always great stuff to hear when you throw out the stuff that you got. Always good stuff. So
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, great, John. I appreciate that review. Glad you're becoming a fan.
yeah,
It's what it's about.
that's right.
But Ryan, I'd be interested to see what you have to say about this, because these both, like I said, both of these records I do think are solid, but they're not quite what we looked at before. And I don't think, well, you might have listened to some of these. I'm not too sure what your history is with these two, the ones we're looking at tonight.
So first off, my history, I had never heard Power Play
Okay.
before, but I have heard First Glance. You're right. These aren't what the others were. I think they're better, honestly. I like both
Well,
of these albums more than I like the ones we talked about last week.
wow.
Um, I think that the songwriting is more focused on both of these records than on the other ones. I felt like the others, they didn't, for some reason, I just felt like they didn't know what kind of band they wanted to be on the other 2 albums. These ones, especially Power Play, they know exactly what they want to be. and I kind of like that. But so first off, starting with First Glance, Get Ready for Love right off the bat. Really awesome song. It's heavy, cool effects on it, cool riff, great vocals. It's really catchy song. I had a lot of fun with it. But the next track's even better. Hot on the Wheels of Love. Killer riff on this song. It's a really grooving one. When I was listening to it again the other day, I had to just share it right on my Facebook just because like this is an awesome song. It jams out and like it's heavy. Um Rock and Roll is a Vicious Game, I think, is a lot better of a soft song than we got on the other two albums. I think it has a bit more of a distinct quality to it than some of the stuff we heard on the other ones. I think my issue with some of the other ballads on Nature of the Beast and Harder Faster was just that they kind of sounded like kind of derivative, and like this isn't like wildly original, but I think it has more of a unique flavor to them. Like this album so far feels more like an April Wine. Like they feel more like an individual band here. Right Down to It's a really good track. Roller is awesome. That's another one of my favorites on here. Great hit there. Coming Right Down on Top of Me. Honestly, I liked even more than Rock and Roll is a Vicious Game as a ballad. I thought this one was beautiful. Great piano on it. Awesome vocals. Just a really beautiful song. It does have kind of a dark feel to it, but just really beautiful too. I'm Alive, I thought was really catchy. It has a good like poppy riff, but it's kind of a weird one though. Like I don't know. The riff kind of reminded me of like a poppier type of like I don't know, like Thin Lizzy or like Kiss kind of riff. I don't know, something in that kind of vein. If you mixed it with like Sweet Jane, like just a little weird fusion of a lot of different sounds, and I think it gives a really interesting vibe. I like the vocals on it a lot too. I just thought it was a really catchy song. Let Yourself Go is pretty good too, but Silver Dollar is awesome. Um, when I listen to this one every single time, I feel like it kind of reminds me of like a certain John Lennon solo song. I can't think of which one it is right off the top of my head right now, but if they like bluesified it, um, I don't know. It's a really interesting song. It's really dark and moody. I love the vocal melody on it. It's really catchy and interesting. Yeah, I really like this album a lot. I think that while I gave both Harder, Faster and Nature of the Beast a 7, I'd probably give this one a solid 8.5.
Wow, nice.
I enjoyed it a lot more. I think that the other two were a little bit of effort for me to listen to all the way through. Even though I liked a lot of stuff on them, they weren't bad albums by any means, but I just think this one's an easier listen all the way through for me. And there's more songs that affect me emotionally on it. So that's First Glance. Power Play is interesting because I think on paper the 3 albums before it should be better. I mean, this has a very 80s production to it. I'd say that none of the songs are really wildly original, but the reason why I like it a lot is, like I said, it does have more of a focused sound to it, and the songs are so fun and catchy. I mean, starting right off with Anything You Want, You Got It, really rocking song. I think the production sounds good on here. I mean, the drums are kind of 80s sounding at times, but I think the guitars sound kind of cool. It's kind of a thin production, honestly, but it works. It doesn't hurt it for me. I think that it gives it kind of a slit, cool kind of feel. Um, I wouldn't say that any of these albums have been like great productions so far, but I enjoy this one and I enjoy the production on First Glance as well. Enough is Enough is such a good pop song. I love the chorus on this one. It's really, really good. I think this album, they're starting to kind of give me some UFO vibes at times with their sound, and I really love UFO a lot, so I think that kind of helped in their favor too on here. But I think Enough is Enough is a fantastic track. If You CK, I enjoy. It is kind of a silly play on words, but I mean, it's also kind of funny too. But like at the same time, I think that I like the vocal melodies a lot in the chorus. They're really beautiful. It's kind of like the melody or harmonies you'd hear vocally on like a Def Leppard song or something like that. On like Pyromania or something. I think that's kind of interesting. What If We Fall in Love is nice. Waiting on a Miracle, I thought was a good song too. I think both of those were really solid. Doing It Right's really catchy as well. Ain't Got Your Love I like too. All those were good tracks. I don't think there's anything on here that's bad. Blood Money was the next one that really stuck out to me. That song rocks really hard. I think there's really good riffs on it. I think the production sounds especially really good on this track. I like the vocals and everything on this track, actually. It's just really catchy. It's fun, and it rocks harder than most of this album. I'd say a lot of this album rocks. I mean, aside from the ballads, it's not like super heavy, but it's a good AOR pop rocks type of sound, and I like that. Tell Me Why is a cool Beatles cover. Definitely a softer version of the song. I love the original as well, but I think this is really catchy too. And I'm usually not huge on Beatles covers unless it's Aerosmith, but yeah, this was a pretty solid one here. And then Runners in the Night was a good catchy closer. I think that both of these albums had really strong closing tracks, which is good. Because I mean, that's the last impression you get when you listen to an album is its last track. And I think both of these had exceptionally strong closing tracks. I'd say probably better than the two albums before it. So this one, I don't think I liked it quite as much as I liked First Glance, but I'd still give it a solid 8. So I still liked it more than Nature of the Beast and Harder, Faster. And I don't know. I mean, I'm still not completely sold on this band. I like them. I've always liked them. But I'm not a fan yet of them. But I could see it happening. It's listening to these two albums now and then thinking back to the ones before that we talked about. It's making me want to look on Amazon, see if there's like a CD box set of these guys or something where I could fully dive in. I've heard Stand Back, and I think that's a decent album, but I do want to go back into some of their more eclectic stuff because I think there might be some things for me to like there, and I'm curious about them. I want to get to know them better. Even though I've listened to them on and off for a long time now, they're never a band that clicked for me, and these two albums started to make that click happen. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, if you like First Glance as much as you do, like Tim said, it still touches on what came before to a certain extent.
Yeah.
First Glance is kind of like a transition album to some degree. But you might like some of the earlier material.
Yeah, I'm curious to check it out, honestly.
I would say, Ryan, if you wanted to get like a still, I would check out one called The First Decade, because that's a pretty good section of their 70s stuff that weren't the big hits.
The First Decade, it's called?
Yeah.
I'll check that out.
I don't
Thanks.
know readily available. There's any 89.
Yeah, I'm
And they
looking
do
it
have
up.
a 4-disc box set. I don't know how easy that is to find either.
I'll look into it. You know, these videos are always making me want to spend some money.
And
Uh,
definitely get all the rockers while you're buying the other one.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
That is
Yeah.
a must-have comp. I mean, if you like April Wine, that is a must-have, as far as I'm concerned. Like I
Yeah, I'll
said, there's
check it
stuff on
out.
there you can't get anywhere else. In those versions,
Yeah. Versions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it
versions, yeah.
first decade in 60 minutes? Um,
Well, there's them called Over 60 Minutes with, because that's series that Capitol Records in Canada put out in the late 80s. Really funny because they made such a big deal over being able to put it over an hour on a CD, and yet some of them are only like 64 minutes long. So they didn't even fill the CD up, and there were plenty of songs. So there's 3 of them in that Over 60 Minutes with series for April 1. There's one called The Hits, which is this this one here, which usually be confused with a couple other releases. The one that Grant mentioned, All the Rockers, and then the first decade, they all have that Over 60 Minutes with banner on. They all came out around the same time.
And
awesome.
those
I'll
CDs
look
actually
into it.
sound pretty good too. All the rockers do. I mean, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll have to check it out. Thanks, guys.
We're here for you, Ryan. We're here for you. Well, anyway, thanks. I really enjoyed that. Interesting. Very good view on April Wine from you. Excellent.
Thanks.
Nick Squire, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. I've got my coal-powered laptop tonight, so it's got a little bit of a hesitation.
That's all right. You
Um,
sound fine.
Good. First glance, I didn't own it, but I will. I absolutely, absolutely, absolutely love that album. I will give it a 9. In a short time, I think I'll like it more than Nature of the Beast. I think it's the strongest of the 4 albums we listened to. There's not a
Wow.
song on there that I don't like.
Wow.
I think I love the presentation. There's slide guitar. There's everything you can imagine. I see little, to me, snippets, whether it's an homage or whether it was inadvertent. But um, I hear other bands. I hear Aerosmith. I hear Stars. I hear Burton Cummings and the Guess Who. Um, I hear in the song "Let Yourself Go." That might be the best track that Sweet never wrote. That is actually pushing on glam. If you listen to that infectious chorus, pure power pop like Grant likes. Or how about this? Is another fellow Canadian, Nikki Gilder, like Roxy Roller. That song is in that vein,
Yeah.
and I would really and really such a catchy song. But and I know Ryan mentioned, I think everybody mentioned that "Hot on the Wheels of Love" is absolutely stupendous song.
Yep.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
song that's a classic song, just like this album is sort of like a diamond in the rough. Someone should cover that song. It's got energy. It's got everything. Riff. It's got everything. Um, I really I like the ballads on the thing. I think they were great. They didn't bore me. They didn't drag me down. Um, I can't say enough about the album. I think it's a classic rock classic, and I'm shocked that I didn't know about the album until this homework assignment, and I'm glad I got a chance to dive in because I really like it, and I think I like it as much, if not more, than Nature of the Beast, which I had rated like a 9 or 9.5.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, so I'll move on
Yeah.
then to, and I'm going to differ with the group. I think Power Play. I like the album. I don't rate it as highly as First Glance. I think that some of the lyrics and songwriting is starting to get a bit derivative, not as fresh and original. I'll rate it a 7. I like the album. I think of the 4 that we listened to over the past couple weeks, I think it's the weakest of the 4. I think the first 3 tracks are fantastic. Everything You Want, You Got It. Enough is Enough. Fantastic song. If You CK with that funny, almost like Kiss background vocals. Um, where it turned for me is that the first ballad, "What If We Fall in Love," that to me almost sounded like "Son of Just Between You and Me" without the punch. And when you then couple that with what comes later, which is the Beatles cover, I thought I wish there was another rocker. Um, I think I would have maybe I like the album if the sequencing, which I usually don't say, but the sequencing was different. I think the album should close with "Doing It Right." I like "Runners in the Night," but I don't think it's a good closer. I think it should have let off the second side, and I think "Doing It Right," which is so high energy, would have been a great closer. I love "Tell Me Why." I like. I think it was very clever that there's a melancholic twist to the vocal. And when you listen to the Beatles version, it's all happy, 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 up and joyous, but that's not the sentiment of the lyric. So that Miles Goodwin, when he sings the "Tell Me Why" vocal, it's actually matches better what they're trying to get across lyrically. And I thought they did a great job. Matter of fact, it was so funny because I heard it the first time. Like, I could maybe it gives you an idea of my Beatles fandom, but I'm like, I know this song, I knew all the lyrics, and it was driving me nuts. I was thinking R&B, I was thinking girl groups. I'm like, I could not place where the song was coming from, and then it finally hit me it was the Beatles. But I thought that was a good cover. I would have preferred that they would have. Well, they did "Tell Me Why," but if they switched out the ballad and did something else. Um, it's a good album. It's I think it's lesser than the others, and that's why I give it a 7. It's by no means a bad album. It's definitely worth buying. It's definitely worth listening to. I did enjoy it. For me, I just seem almost like cracks of being derivative, and I know they were shooting for something here. It's a little bit different sound. Um, I don't know. I don't. To me, well, production. If I was going to compare First Glance and for me, Power Play, for me, I think First Glance actually holds up better for me. But I'm old.
I agree.
Nick, the
Yeah.
the Beatles, why that was that like a B side? That wasn't on any of their albums, was it?
Tell me why. It was on like a compilation that I know of, and I'm not. I think it was probably just a single because it was so early on before they were actually cobbling together albums. So it was an early Beatles track.
Yeah.
But it's such a upbeat, happy vocal. Harmonizing between Lennon and McCartney. It's a great song, but I just love the twist that Miles Goodwin puts on it. That just little slightly melancholic thing to it. It's really clever. I like it. It's great.
Wow.
It's great bluesy
Good take.
guitar in it. Little
Oh yeah,
guitar licks.
on both albums too. Yeah, both great.
Good take, Nick. Appreciate that. Well, First Glance. I like this record. For some reason, I'm not hearing exactly what Ryan's hearing, because I still think this is a transitional record. They're still trying. They just got Brian Greenway in the band. I mean, he's added quite a bit to the band. In fact, he might have been the one that's added that aspect of the rock or the heaviness into the band. But "Hot on the Heels of Love" is 5-star April Wine. I mean, that is like showing what's coming. It's just like a preview, foreshadowing. You know, get ready for "Love's a Great Song." I mean, side 1 on this record is killer. Rock and Roll is a Vicious Game, right down on it. I mean, what a great Brian Greenway track. What a great track for him to start out with, I must say. And then you go right to Roller, which, what can you say about Roller? I mean, it is, when I think April Wine, I think Roller. That's the quintessential April Wine song, I think. Maybe, possibly. But the triple guitar leads in that song and how intricate it is, it's just wonderful. This is like an offshoot, but there was a band when I grew up called Scimitar that had the 3 guitar lineup like April Wine, and they used to play Roller, and they were just like a machine. I remember seeing that when I was a kid, and I just thought, holy crap, these guys are good. But because I'd already seen April Wine like in '79 play Roller, so I knew, when I saw them live, it was just like changed my whole life. I mean, I think, Ryan, if you could have saw him back in 79, you might have even a better opinion. But Roller's great, and that's where I think Side 2 starts falling apart a little bit, because even though it does give you a glimpse of what's coming down the road, it does kind of, like I'm Alive, Let Yourself Go kind of goes back to that previous April Wine, which is fine. I'm sure it's fine. But even though there's some great stuff on here, I think I'd probably give this record, I mean, I'd probably give it, this is hard because I do like this record. I guess I'd give it a 3.5 maybe, or 3.75 out of 5. I want to really like it, and what's on here that I do like, I absolutely love. So I guess I give it a 3.75 out of 5, which I don't think's bad. I think they were basically trying to get things worked out, and by the next album, they totally knew what they were doing. That's where I hear Harder Faster. Fully realized, The next record, if I can operate my computer, is Power Play. And this record, I love this record. I love this record as much as Nature of the Beast and Harder Faster. I bought this when it came out. I bought the 45 when it came out. I absolutely loved it. Is this album as strong as Nature of the Beast or Harder Faster? Probably not. But Anything You Want, You Got It is a wonderful track. Classic. What a great opener. Enough is Enough is a great song. Like I said, I bought the 45. Had a nice picture sleeve. In fact, it was the picture sleeve that's on the cover. If You See K is fine. I mean, in high school, we thought that was pretty funny. Now, I don't know. It's, it's still catchy. And the thing is with this album, like I think Ryan said, the whole thing is very, maybe it was John, one of you guys said you thought it was very catchy. And how you thought that the album really flowed well. Like all these songs are all, I don't want to say they're all very similar, but I think it's very cohesive. They're all similar kind of songs to some degree. Production's very similar. Whatever We Fall in Love is a great ballad. Is it as good as Just Between You and Me? I don't know. I like it. Waiting on a Miracle I like. Doing It Right. On the Wrong Side of Town. I love that. Ain't Got Your Love. Blood Money. Heavy track. The only track that I have a little bit of a problem with is when anyone does a Beatles cover. Now, I must admit, April Wine, with their rendition of Tell Me Why, they do make it their own. I will hand them that. But I think it's the weakest thing on the record, and I'm like Nick, I think I'd rather have another track on here. I'm sure Miles had plenty of songs that he could have. I'm not sure why we went with Tell Me Why. But then again, why are there 3 covers on this record anyway? I'm not sure why. Maybe Miles is running out of songs. Hard to say. But I like Runners in the Night. I think that's a good
I think they were kind of rushed
track.
to get this album out to follow up Nature of the Beast.
Yeah, probably. And of course, Nature of the Beast, it was a pretty long tour, if I remember right. They were probably pretty worn out after that. But still, even after Nature of the Beast, the tour that they had to accomplish, I think this is a strong record. I definitely would give this like a 4.5 out of 5, probably. If Nature of the Harder Faster, Nature of the Beast, they're 5s. This is a 4.5. But I do love this record. I mean, this was almost like the last hurrah for them. But we will look at Animal Grace and Into the Fire next. But those albums are a little bit different than what we have here. But yeah, I love this record. I mean, I have so much history with it. I just look at this, Power Play, Nature of the Beast, and Harder, Faster kind of as a package set to me. They all belong together. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I've got on that. So, everybody's got a little different opinion on these records. So that's good.
But they're all positive.
They're all positive because they're all good records.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. In a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hey Tim, I looked up quick. Tell Me Why was on A Hard Day's Night, so it's on that soundtrack. So it wasn't it's that
Okay.
not a dedicated album, but
Yeah,
soundtrack.
it's on Hard Day's Night.
Okay.
But yeah, I wish.
Yeah, they completely reinvented. I mean, he could have almost written a whole new set of lyrics and used music and gotten the songwriting royalty for it. It's so different.
It's very
Right.
different. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Aerosmith Come Together, if you listen to that, though, on our Aerosmith show, I like the Aerosmith cover version of Come Together. That's one of the few Beatle covers that I give my stamp of approval. But
I like it more.
You like it? Of course you do. But I must say, I'm giving April Wine and they do make Tell Me Why their own. But I would rather see something else on here. But
Davey,
It's fine.
I agree that the Beach Boys version of Tell Me Why is classic. I love that album, Party. Good acoustic stuff on there.
yeah. But that's it. I don't have any more to add. Anybody else have anything to add on these records?
Just go
They're
check them
both-
out.
Yeah, they're both worth buying, and I think all four of them are definitely worth a listen. And if you're gonna do more, yeah, I'm all in because I did start to look ahead at some of those later albums.
I mean, if you want, we can also go back in time too and start looking at those. I mean, no one else is really looking at this stuff, and I'm game. But the next two we're gonna do is Animal Grace
Oh, this is
and
great.
Through the Fire. Well, if you guys want to keep going, we can keep going.
Yeah,
Let's look at some comments. What did Davey have to say?
a lot.
Of course, Tell Me Why was also covered by the beat. By the beat, right?
Hey, why don't you like Beatles covers? Why don't you
Because
like Beatles covers?
I think the Beatles shouldn't be messed with. I think what they did is sacred.
Sure.
I don't think you should even touch them because most Beatle covers I've ever heard are pale imitations. I just don't think that stuff should be tampered with.
I like what
But
Like
I
what
like Come
Davies-
Together.
you
I like Come Together by
you
Aerosmith.
colonials had the Beatles version on something new. That's funny.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's on something new. Wasn't that early? Yeah. See, I'm catching up. I can't click the comments and talk. Yeah. BM Bold. It was also on Hard Day's Night. Yeah. BM Bold. I was lucky enough to see April Wine twice. First on the Harder, Faster tour opening for Styx, then headlining on the Power Play tour with Any Money opening. See, that would be sweet. I don't know why I didn't see him on Power Play. I just didn't see him. I don't know. I don't know what happened with that. I'd like to have seen him on Power Play.
There's a
Well,
really
I don't
good
really have-
CD
Go
that's
ahead.
out there that King Biscuit Flower Hour put out from the Power Play tour in from Wichita, and it came out in the late '90s. It's probably been released under different names, but it's a good snap. And at that time, they were really on the top of their game.
Right. They were tight as can be by that time. Yeah, King Biscuit put out two different it's the same thing. They've put it out twice on CD, I know that. But they're not cheap.
Yeah.
You know? I need to
Probably
pick that
was when
up.
it was
Not
released.
anymore,
though.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cheap when it came out, but they've been out
Yeah.
of print for Lord knows how long.
And anything King Biscuit, it's usually really good. I haven't heard anything where I was like, that's disappointing. It's always good.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's
I love that stuff.
very well recorded, yeah.
Well, I don't
The
have
one
anything
for the
more to
Road
add.
Live album is really good too.
But is that King Biscuit though, or is it a different show?
No, no, that was from the Animal Grace tour, which was at the time their quote unquote farewell tour, which they only toured Canada that year because Animal Grace wasn't as successful. I'm really looking forward to what people are going to think of those two albums.
Well, we're gonna hit them. That's up. Those are up next. Those I really like to see what your opinions are on those because it's those are
Yeah.
different records.
My lips are sealed for now.
King Biscuit is my right.
Monarch.
Yeah, you can. Well, they did a great job with Little Richard and Carl Perkins, Davy. Come on. It's the Beatles for crying out loud.
I'm going to direct you to a couple Beatles covers that may be worthy of a listen and are done differently. So I don't know if I'll announce it here. It's a
Go
lesser
ahead,
known
you might
album.
as well.
Yeah, it's a lesser known album, but check out Humble Pie's Street Rats. And they do several Beatles covers because it was such a mishmash album. But their version of Rain is very good, and Drive My Car. And there's another one, We Can Work It Out, I think, is on there as well. There's
Wow.
three Beatles covers on one album.
That's amazing. All right, I'll check those out.
I would also say much.
It's a pregnant pause from Tim.
Yeah, say that
Say
again,
it again,
Tim.
Tim.
Oh, sorry. It's Journey on their second album. This is pre Steve Perry. In their prog years, they do It's All Too Much. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I like the Stevie Wonder version of We Can Work It Out more than the original. By far. I think the Stevie Wonder version is superb.
Roller is based on a woman who likes to gamble.
Yeah. That's right.
There you go.
Ernesto's a fellow 8-track collector.
Is he? Oh. Do you
He
have
is.
any April Wine 8-tracks, Tim?
I believe I've got them all, and I will be doing an episode where I go through them.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that.
This may be in the weeds, but if you were ever a fan of Howard Stern years and years ago, he had a band competition or Battle of the Bands, and he brought in Doug Flutie, who at the time I think was quarterbacking the
That's
Bills.
right.
And Flutie comes in, and they do Roller, and it kicked ass. It was so good. And I was just so impressed that he chose that song. I'm like, all right, well, he's up in Buffalo. It made sense. Of course, he lost, but, the fix was in. But to just choose that song was really cool. And that Doug Flutie behind the drum kit, I was like, what the hell? Awesome. That's probably over 25 years old now at this point.
Rammstein's Octopus Garden. I can only imagine. Does that really exist?
Yeah, is that real?
Is that real? Davy, he's nuts. Well, I don't have anything else to wrap with. You guys have anything else? Want to go around? Tim, you got anything to plug?
This was fun. I don't. Well, just weekly episodes. Actually, got an episode on favorite live album coming up, and I'm pretty sure April Wine is going to be mentioned.
Excellent. Give April Wine some more love.
Kidding. I know they're going to
Davey
be
says
because I
it's-
did it. So
Davy says it's real.
Okay.
As long as you don't look it up, it's real. It's real in your head, right, Davy?
Yeah.
John Clauser, what do you got? You're muted. John Clauser's talking into the air.
We can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
great. It's a movie.
There, I unmuted. Wait a minute. I'm muting you and you're muting yourself.
It's a mutiny.
You're out. You're live.
Hmm.
No, you're not live. You're unmuted. Well, since we can't hear John Clauser,
Well,
Ryan, why don't you go?
well, all right.
All right, so I have a YouTube
Now he's
channel,
muted again.
Facebook, and Instagram called Ryan's Final Destination. And so on the channel, we talk about music, we talk about movies. Well, we are going to talk about movies in the near future. But let's see, some stuff that's come out recently. We have the Aerosmith series continuing. We just did an episode yesterday about our ideal set lists of Aerosmith in 1978. So we each picked 17 songs and that we wanted to see in a concert with Aerosmith in 1978. We'll be talking about their new album that just came out, The Road Starts Here, which is demos from 1971. And what else? I have a new series I started. It's called Cassette Treasure Hunts. It's just me. I'll be sharing cassettes that I find out in the wild. Did the first episode yesterday, so go check that out. Got a YouTube series starting up on the 22nd. And so we'll be going through the entire catalog. Grant, Todd, David Gallagher, who's guy who's been blowing up the comments. Let's see. I think John the Music Nuts on there, and then I think that was, and then Grant. So yeah, that's everybody for that one. And so that'll be a lot of fun. We're doing a Dario Argento episode soon. Tyler Hagopian and David and I were going to be talking about the movies Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Cat o' Nine Tails, and Four Flies on Grey Velvet. So that's his Animal trilogy. Have an Iron Maiden video coming up in early July. We'll be talking about Dream set lists. I have a Cars ranking the albums video on the 27th. Planning a Judas Priest one right now where we're going to do a best of comp like we did with Iron Maiden recently. Amongst a ton of other stuff. And then on the Facebook and Instagram, you can get written reviews, reels. I review some record stores I go to, share my Sea of Tranquility reviews, etc. So check me out.
There you go. Nick, you got anything?
Nothing.
Well, you can see Nick on Contrarians. You can see him here.
Yeah, that's enough.
He's really everywhere. Just keep your eyes peeled. Here's what's on Grant's Rock Warehouse right now. Cheapy Bin Finds number 3. This is where I go out and look in the cheapy bins, bring home stuff that I can get for under $2. The next episode's gonna feature Nick Squire, and we're gonna collaborate on that one. So we'll see what Nick has. It should be a blast. The second British Invasion show's already aired and streamed live. It's now available on YouTube, so you can watch it once again. This is where the panel looks at all those 1980s bands from the MTV era. So we're talking Thompson Twins, Flock of Seagulls, Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, all those great bands that flooded the U.S. shores back in the early 80s. Upcoming, Reed Little and I are going to look at our top 5 Beach Boys tracks. Reed's looking at 5. I'm looking at 5, and we're going to tell you what those 5 tracks are. Should be a blast. What else is coming up? We've got an upcoming live stream with Ryan Gavalier. We're looking at Cheap Trick and In Color. First and second Cheap Trick albums. We're going to go through the entire catalog on this series. It'll probably take us forever to get through it, but should be a fun ride. Also, Bicycle Legs and Todd Evans. We're going to do a panel discussion on our favorite album tracks of Devo. So we're going to look at one song apiece from each album. So we'll be recording that this week. That's going to be a blast. Look forward to that. And also is the premiere episode of Friday Night Chat. That's upcoming live stream on June 17th at 8 p.m. Now, it might move to 8:30 depending on what happens before. But the topic for this panel, and it'll probably be a rotating panel. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. We're just going to wing it. Are records you spent way more money on than you'd like to admit. Great topic. It'll be streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, in a nutshell, that's pretty much what's coming up. Let's see what else. So did we decide what video that was that he was talking about with the guitar going through space?
I think they're talking. Yeah, I think they're talking about the Triumph videos from Allied forces because they were on this big. The stage looked like a giant flying V. So
Yeah.
the original like Magic Power, Allied forces say goodbye. They were all done at the same time. But my first thought was April Wine, Sons of the Pioneers had a space. It was like NASA footage.
Right.
Now that I think about it.
And that's another bad video. Those April Wine videos.
Oh, they
are
had
all
a ton of
horrible.
them.
They did.
This could be the right one. That's not a good video. But more about that when we talk about the album.
Yes, we'll get to that later.
And
All
I
right.
forgot that song existed, and I heard it yesterday. And I hadn't heard it since about 1985 or 6. Totally haven't heard it since then. And it was a good one.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
great song.
I think we've pretty much hit all the comments. All right, boys, let's wrap this dog up. So anyway, this is Grant from Grant's Rock Warehouse. I want to thank my panel for joining me today. Another great discussion. So stay tuned because we're going to look at Animal Grace and Walk Through Fire. So, and then, heck, we'll probably just do the whole catalog. But I've got those two records on hand, so we can do those easily. At least for me, it'll be easy. So, like I said, I want to thank everybody for joining me. And we'll see you on the next April Wine video.
Awesome. Thank you.